The goal isn't to get a record deal. The goal is to have a successful career in music. They look at it like they're investing in a startup, and more artists fail than succeed. You could have been signed because the A&R guy owed somebody on your team a favor, so he did the signing and then that was it. And then the A&R guy left the label or got fired and you're never coming out.
Tonight I'm speaking with a certified legend, one of the OGs in the music industry who has been around the block helping some of the biggest artists on the planet, from Master P, Cash Money Records, Eminem, so many others, help get their deal locked and sorted with their labels. And in doing so, she's built and operated an empire that has helped artists monetize tenfold or hundredfold on the investment they made into themselves. This is a fascinating conversation about leverage and understanding your value. And there's no one kinder on the planet that I could have that conversation with than Wendy. You're going to learn a thing or two about a thing or two. That's my one promise to you. And so I'm going to say no more. Let Wendy talk. First of all, Wendy, I'm deeply honored to have you here. Every kid who grew up listening to rap and hip hop, like their childhood was the artists you work with, the deals you were brokering. And so like you've played a lot in history to me. So hey, I'm grateful for you. Grateful for you being here, but also like, what does it mean to shop around for a deal? Let's start right there.
Let's start right there, because that's important, because really you shouldn't be shopping around for a deal. It's that simple. You should be putting out music yourself and building your fan base, marketing and promoting it properly, showing the world that you can do this on your own. Because when the labels see that you're doing this and you're building a fan base and you've got some leverage, they're going to come to you. But when they come to you, you'll be able to get a better deal than if you go to them with your hands out begging.
Fact.
Much better deal.
Fact. And I think the misconception is, I need some funding, I need some capital, I want to invest in myself. So I get the money, but then you get the shit deals when you're asking rather than the label asking, right?
Yeah. You know what's worse, though, than a shit deal is a deal that doesn't lead to success. Because the goal isn't to get a record deal. The goal is to have a successful career in music. So really getting the deal is like the first step. But a lot of artists don't realize that, or they don't think that way. They think, oh, my goal is to get a deal. I'll just sit back. The label will do all the work, or I'll do a little bit of work, but they'll lead me and I'll be okay. And that's not how it happens. When you get signed, they'll fund you, but they'll fund you with a very small amount of money if you don't have proof of concept. Meaning if you don't already have leverage or an amazing team of people that have done this, many, many, many times and recently. Or if you don't already have something going viral, like a song that's already taking off, they're not going to make a lot of effort for you. So you're going to have to do the work anyway, but you're doing the work at that point for like 15% of the income after you pay back all the money they're spending out of your 15%. Yes. It's not even coming off the top. It's like you're paying it out of your share. It's like paying off a mortgage on the house, but then you don't own it when it's paid off. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's never, in 32 years that I've been doing this, it's never made sense to me.
I totally agree. I've run out of reasons recently why artists should sign to labels. But I think can we just double take on explaining the advance for those who don't know? Like, I get it, but like there's nuances to it. So when you take the amount of cash up front, what are some of the terms to pay it back and then get into profit?
Exactly. So an advance is exactly that. It's recoupable, and it's recoupable out of your share of the income. And their goal is to give you as little money up front for as long as possible of a term. And your goal is to get as much money as you can for as short of a term. So you're already going into it kind of at extreme opposites. So you need to have some leverage so that you can get the best deal possible, right? So once you get signed, let's say the advance let's say the advance is 150,000 or 300,000 US. Let's say that that's what the offer is. That doesn't mean they're going to cut you a check for 150,000 or 300,000. It doesn't work that way. They will have a budget that they've put together on their side, and you don't really get to see this until you're negotiating the deal or you've signed the deal, right? So they might say, okay, out of that 150, we're going to spend 125,000 on recording, and we'll give you 25,000 as an advance up front so that you can live until your
Thank you.
music comes out, right? Whether it's singles or whether it's an album or an EP. And that could take a year to a year and a half. And I don't know about you, but I cannot live on 25,000 a year. You know, it's very meager. Like you could work at Walmart and make more money, to be very honest with you. And I don't want to sit here and bash major labels, because they do have a point, and they do have benefit if you have leverage and you can do a multi-million-dollar deal. And I'll explain why in a minute, but I want to come back to answer the exact question that you asked me. So they've figured out how much money they're going to advance you. They already know before they sign you how much money they're going to spend all in, and they already know like where they're going to market and promote you. So it's not like they're looking at you like you're a star. They're looking at you like maybe you could become one, but really 1 out of 50 people at the company become stars. So you're really one of 50 people that they're hoping will. And then if you start to show a little bit of traction and some growth, they'll put a little bit more money behind you. But you've got a very short window of time to do that. You have like anywhere from 4 weeks after you put out your project, maximum 12. I've never seen them go further than 12 weeks. So really you've got 3 months for your shit to start taking off. But here's the frustrating part. Like, of almost all of the artists that I've worked with, it's almost always taken like a year to a year and a half to get somebody to really start like reacting. And then it takes at least a year and a half to 2 years for them to break even. So if the label's not really invested in you or your career, the chances are good that you're going to fail before you even have a chance to get started. It just makes more sense.
Three things I want to pick up on here.
Please.
Wow. So the first is you're recouping only from your percentage, which is tiny, compared to the master share of the pie.
Can I just say that? Can I say that again? Because I want that to be crystal clear.
Yeah.
Because it took me a little while to really understand this. The money doesn't come off the top. So let's say they advance you $150,000 and they spend another 500,000 marketing and promoting you for a total of 650. And let's say you've made $1 million, right? They don't take that 650 off of the $1 million that came in. They take that 650 out of your 15 to 18% share of that money that's come in. So you rarely recoup as an artist. When you really think about that, it's almost criminal.
That's insane. Yeah. So you generate 20x more than you bring back. Okay. So the second thing was like,
crazy, right?
When an artist sees, even 100K is crazy, but even 30K, even 20K, it sounds like a lot of money for a broke independent artist who's pushing them all into their music. And then when you look at the term, like you said, it's a really bad deal. And then when you look at losing things like creative control, having to spend your advance in places you don't want to spend it, with suppliers you don't want to use.
No ownership. You have no ownership because they're taking the ownership of the masters. It's what they get in exchange for taking the risk. They don't look at it like they're investing in a successful artist. They look at it like they're investing in a startup, because that's what the artist is. The artist is really a new business, a startup. And more artists fail than succeed. So it's not like they see your talent, and this is what most artists think that it is, that they see your talent, they fall so in love with your talent, they put their resources behind you, and then you wake up a week later and you're Drake or Ed Sheeran and you're everywhere. And that's not what it is at all. You could have been signed because the A&R guy owed somebody on your team a favor. So he did the signing and then that was it. You may have gotten signed and then the A&R guy left the label or got fired and you're never coming out. You may have gotten signed because you had a song that had a little bit of traction and then they found out after they signed you that you were buying views or you were buying playlists. Yep. And now you get shelved. You may be signed and then somebody else is signed a couple weeks after you that's better and stronger and has more leverage, and they jump over you, the label jumps over you and starts working them, and they become the priority. So there's a million reasons why artists don't succeed that have nothing to do with talent.
I fully agree. But I think it's also my third point was they project how many streams they guesstimate that you're going to achieve, and they calculate your advance based on that. And if you don't live up to that, you're stuck in a shit deal. You're stuck in a long-term deal.
It's called being shelved.
Being shelved, even breaking even is a long shot, let alone getting out of the deal.
Exactly. It's ludicrous to me that somebody would want to take that much of a risk with their career when they could just start putting music out themselves, find an investor or somebody to believe in them, to get them to a level where if that's their goal, and I don't know why it would be somebody's goal, but I don't shit on that, because if that's your dream, I'm with it. I've done a lot of deals for artists because that was their dream. So I'm not against that. I just don't see why you would do that in 2024 or 2025. I don't that's
agree.
Crazy talk to me,
I hope you're enjoying this conversation. I picked up on so much game from Wendy. It almost made me rebuild my entire business off the back of hearing her speak. But today I want to tell you about DistroKid and the amazing services they offer for artists like you getting started on their journey. One of the best tools they have is called Hyperfollow, which is like a link in bio on steroids. Using Hyperfollow by DistroKid, you can create multiple links in one place. So you can link out to multiple EPs, multiple merch sites, YouTube channels, and other products that you have for sale so that your fans know where to grab it from. You can set one up very easily inside the DistroKid website or using the app on the Apple Store and Google Play Store. Hyperfollow is an amazing tool. It's the Swiss Army knife of a link in bio, and it's completely free to set up when you're on any of the DistroKid tiers. If you're not yet part of the family, you can join using my link and get a 7% discount off your first year. And that link is distrokid.com/VIP/all about helping. Huge love, as always, to DistroKid for sponsoring the entire season 3 of this podcast. I couldn't have done this without them. And now we're going to dive back in to the conversation with Wendy. Your career legacy has been protecting artists from bad deals. So when they've
wanted themselves.
Okay. When they've wanted to do a deal, how have you muscled your way in? How have you muscled into the room, protected them from signing on the dotted line of something that's going to ruin them? How have you managed to at least get the sticking points of the terms of the deal favorable?
Leverage. I've always built leverage for the artist. So when you look at the deals that I've done, from Girl Code to Trouble to Cash Money to Eminem to Master P, like all David Banner, all the deals that I've done, we've put the music out into the marketplace first, worked it properly, gotten enough leverage to show the labels, okay, look, your risk is reduced because look how well they're doing on their own with tiny resources. So imagine what they could do with you, Mr. Label, being behind them, this big bad powerhouse of a label. Imagine what you could do. And they get that. Like, I speak their language. So I deliver what they're looking for. I've never done a deal where an artist has been shelved. I've never done a deal for an artist that hasn't gone into the top 10. It may take a while because it takes years to build a career, but my artists win. And it's because I see what it takes to win. And what it takes is proving to the world and to the people putting up the money, the labels or the investor, whoever, that you're a viable business that's going to grow. You
Facts.
take away the fear and the risk of failure, and they will do whatever they have to do to help you win.
I think there's two things there. I think there's one is championing the culture and finding it, but going beyond a marketing plan or a release rollout,
That's me.
but actually impacting society, community.
Yes.
And then I think beyond that is finding artists with an unstoppable determination that nothing can stop them
Correct.
because budget isn't a
You're gonna
factor when you
no
have
matter
hustle.
what. Exactly. And well, budget's still a factor, but you find a way to
Yep.
get the budget instead of finding a way to get around having to have one. I can't do this without money. I've been doing this for 32 years. And even with my know-how, my relationships, and my incredible determination, I can't do this without a budget. So I don't want to downplay and have somebody think that they can do this just on grit. Because if there was a way to do this on grit, I would have found it, you know?
Right.
But I'm part of the culture of hip hop. So I still listen to hip hop, right? I still listen to rap music. So I have the ability to listen to something and know, okay, that's going to reach a lot of people, or that's going to reach a small amount of people, or that's not going to reach anybody. So I turn down working with more people than I take on, because if you can't win to begin with, I don't I don't want to ding my name and my reputation. It doesn't mean that you can't win on your own. It just means I can't help you win, because I'm looking for artists that can get to that superstar level. I'm not looking for artists to just break even.
Fact.
It's too expensive and the risk is too high to work with somebody that's only going to make $50,000 a year. They're going to pay me more than what they're going to make. And that's not fair. And I don't ever want to be that person. You know, money's just not worth it to me to ever become that person.
I fully agree. I think there's, playing at that elite level, you're playing for the game, but you're also playing to really break what's never been done before.
Correct.
And I think with certain artists, I often find there's an element, or more than an element, there's a whole chunk of their life that is just posing, and it's all ego and it's all fluff. And actually the numbers and the metrics and the data and the analytics are going to tell you and expose you for what you really are. And I think for many artists,
and time will tell. Time will expose you very much for who you are. Always.
But
Always.
I think there's a whole new momentum of artists that are really just building community first. And they're not trying to posture to what they look like. They're trying to posture to what people are actually thinking about them.
Yes.
Of course, artists like that, is there labels want to add them to their Thanos kind of glove? They want to add them to their crown jewel collection. How do those artists get like the label interest?
They want to add them if they can make money with them. They don't want to add them just because they feel they want to be attached to that reputation. So the best example I can give you, if you're familiar with 6ix9ine, is that the labels had no ill will being attached to him, either when he was going through the trial, either when he was in prison, when he snitched and got out. They didn't care about any of that. All they cared about was, could they make money? That's what they were looking at. And I just have to remind you that it's a business. They're not in this for the culture. They're not an art museum. They are not an art museum that houses great art. That's not what they do. They are Coca-Cola. They are IBM. They are Tesla. They are Apple. They're a corporation that's in most cases publicly traded with market share, and they care about being able to pay dividends to their stockholders. That's what they care about. You know, having the crown jewel. No.
Coca-Cola, a really interesting analogy, really good analogies, like Coca-Cola being like the conglomerate with all the sub brands beneath it. And if a brand's not profitable, exit out and then move on. Yeah.
They shut it down. Over here, we had a product called Vanilla Coke, and they
Yep.
shut that shit down because it wasn't profitable for them. They kept it going for a while, but it wasn't as big as like Cherry Coke or Diet Coke or Coke One or whatever it's called, you know?
Hmm.
So they get rid of the worst performing brands and they keep the best performing. The problem is that with music, it's people. It's not cans of Coke, it's human beings. And that's hard. It's very hard for an artist to be 21 years old and be a superstar and then by 23 feel like they're a failure. Like that's just crazy to me that
Yeah.
would even happen.
That's a lot of complex emotions in that. Just even the pressure
Yeah.
of having to deliver. There's no safety net. There's no escape.
No.
There's like you either deliver, you put money on the table, or
Yes.
we drop
And
you.
they
And
don't.
what happens after getting dropped? Like, are you in your contract? Are you out of your contract? Are you in
You're out of
limbo?
your contract. If they drop you, you're out of your contract. In most cases, you do not get your masters back because they paid for all of that.
Right.
You don't owe them any money, but you're just back to being an unsigned artist. And if you're an artist that really wants to have a record deal, it kind of puts you in an unfavorable position. It's hard to get a record deal to begin with,
Yep.
but if you've already been signed, it's nearly impossible because the labels that could sign you after you've been signed and dropped, they're looking at you like, okay, what's wrong with you?
Right.
They don't look at it like, oh, the label fucked up. Because remember, they're a label. So in their eyes, they never do any wrong, right?
Of course.
They never make mistakes. So therefore, if somebody got dropped, they must have done something horribly wrong because they don't care about reputation. They don't care that, they don't care that you've done stuff that people don't like, you know?
Does it put like a black
Care
mark
about-
against your name in the royalty statements and in the kind of back end systems? Does it like show you were signed, you were distributed, but then you were dropped and you're without a deal, or you just back to being a broke artist?
You're back to being a broke artist, and everybody just kind of knows because they saw you getting promoted by Atlantic or Warner or Sony. They saw, or Universal, they saw that you were at one point in time signed. And then, of course, when you get dropped, the first thing an artist does is they go and try to find a new deal.
Yep.
And everybody will take the meeting because they don't want to not take the meeting.
Yep.
But it's very, very hard to get signed.
I see some success stories. Like in the UK, we have two R&B acts, one called Ray, one called Cleo Sol, who have done better after being
I love that.
mutually exiting a deal. I think I'll use the
Right.
term. Rather
Lady Gaga as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're better
She was on
independently.
Def Jam. They dropped the ball. They dropped her, and then Interscope picked her up, and Akon got behind her and took her out of here.
Yeah. History repeating itself then.
But of the two examples that you just gave me, you could probably give me 100
Sure.
of the opposite
Yes.
of people that
Very
got
true.
dropped that never got another deal or didn't go on to become successful afterwards.
At this point, I was blown away by my conversation with Wendy Day, but I had Symphony OS in my mind because they have some incredible AI-powered Facebook ad campaigns that you can use for all different tactics, such as growing a YouTube channel, growing your Instagram followers, increasing your Spotify streams. If you run a playlist, running up followers and streams on the playlist itself, and so many more. What Symphony OS does is it takes your real fan base and your real followers who are already listening to your music, and it finds other people like them who have not yet heard your music. It's a scientific way of going above and beyond your existing community to find fans who are going to love you but have never heard of you. So if you want to try Symphony OS, I'm going to give you a free 30-day trial of the Pro account. You pay, but if you cancel before them, you don't have to pay anymore. And you can get that trial using my link, which is symphonyos.co/all-about-helping. There's a little bit of code in there, so make sure you grab the link from the description below. Huge love, as always, to my bro Meg and the Symphony team for creating an amazing tool for us. So what do? How do they get proper funding when they're at that juncture? You said earlier, find an investor.
Yeah.
That's tough. Are there
It,
other ways of getting like independent distribution, advanced funding? What are the kind of
yes,
ways to maneuver around?
there's companies out here that will advance funds. They won't for a brand new artist with no track record. You have to have some income coming back in. And you have to be careful which one you choose. There's some of them that are like payday loans, which over
Oh,
here are, I don't know if you have payday loans.
yeah.
You probably don't. You're quite a civilized country. We're not. We're kind of all about the money over here. But and that's not a good thing, by the way. I say
I
that.
know, yeah,
I gotta
crazy
say that.
interest rates,
Say
crazy
that.
interest
Yeah,
rates.
I say that not in a good way. But they're predatory loans where they'll give you, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, whatever you need based on a formula that they have internally, but you could end up losing your publishing or your masters
Oh, mad.
or if they are treating it like credit and it becomes like, like a black mark against you, they could take whatever you own, your house, your car, whatever,
Mad.
to get the money back. So you have to be really, really careful. My favorite way of working with artists is not predatory loans. I don't even work with artists that go and get bank loans because the risk is too high.
Yep.
I like when an artist has an accredited investor, like somebody that invests money comfortably and it's not their rent money, it's not their mortgage money. They've got enough money in their life that they can gamble with this because
Mhm.
that's really what it is. It's a risk.
Yep.
I'd like to think I reduce the risk a little bit because I'm great at what I do. But the reality is it's a risk nonetheless. I can't control the marketplace. I can't control who likes the music. I can't control how hard the artist is going to work. I can only provide a formula that has worked for me
Definitely.
in the past and in the recent past. That's all I can do.
I think obviously generation younger than you, but I have a good sense about me, like where's good to spend money and where's not. And I think
Yeah.
expensive things such as location hire for a music video or videographer hire in order to film the content or buy some merch without having any pre-orders or doing a whole host of things that put large amounts of capital in the black hole. I'm always wary. I'm like, let's
I am too.
let's reassess before we drop 10K, 5K, 2K, even £1,000 for many artists is a lot of money.
Have a plan. It's really about figuring out what you want to do. First, you have to figure out what works. So either you need somebody on your team that knows what works, or you need to be really savvy and watch what's working right now for artists that are at your level. Like you can't look and say, okay, this is working for Kendrick Lamar, therefore it'll work for
Of
me.
course.
No, Kendrick's a superstar. Beyonce, superstar. Drake, superstar. You can't look at what they're doing and mirror that. It won't work. You have to mirror the people that are at your level and you can kind of see what they're doing that's working. So you put together a list, and that's called a marketing plan. You put together a list of all the things that you want to do, you price it out, and that tells you how much money you need. And at that point, you can go and start looking for an investor. Just tell everybody you know that you're looking for an investor and start meeting with legitimate, authentic investors. I know that they exist. I know they're out there because everybody that I've been working with since 1997, 96 has had an investor. So when people tell me I can't find one, I can't get one, I just look at them and say, oh, really? Because I'm taking between 2 and 5 meetings a week with people that have an investor that are trying to hire us. And most of them either don't have the talent or they don't have the work ethic or their niche is too small and it doesn't make sense for me to take them on as a client. I take on maybe 2 or 3 people a year just to put it into perspective. But I'm meeting with a lot of people every week that have investors. So there are investors out there. If somebody's saying I can't find an investor, it just means they haven't found an investor.
Yeah,
That's all.
I haven't looked hard enough to find one is what I'm hearing you say.
Or they don't really want one. Or it's scary and they don't want to do the work. Or
I
they
think
just I'm very introverted. To be very honest with you, if I had to go find an investor, it would be very hard for me because I can't walk into a room with a lot of people. And that's kind of what you got to do. You got to go places where high net worth people hang out, and you've got to talk to them about what you're doing until somebody says, wait, that sounds interesting. Can we take a meeting,
Totally.
after this dinner or after this event or after this whatever? I'd like to sit down with you. Like, I'm not great at that. So I don't think I would get funded unless I hired somebody to get funding for me.
Yep.
Because
I was going to say, I think it's very unlikely, by the sounds of it, that the investor's already in your circle. It might be 1 to 2 degrees of separation away.
exactly.
To get out of the room you're in, to get into other rooms where you sometimes feel small, you sometimes feel intimidated, to
Yeah.
go up to
And
people
uncomfortable.
pitch yourself.
I suck at asking people for money. So I am not the person that should be raising money for anybody. But if you're good at that, you need to be telling everybody. You need to be at the meetings where doctors and lawyers are hanging out. Like anybody that is a high net wealth person, the tech world is full of money. Accountants, lawyers, there's just certain people in life, professional sports guys. I have so many clients that come to me, or potential clients that come to me, that are in the NFL or the NBA or play baseball or soccer because they want to start a record label, you know? And a lot of people that want to do this don't have artists yet. So they're seeking, and they want to put their money behind somebody they believe in. So they're seeking somebody that is delivering music that they like.
Yep. Fully
And
agreed.
it's just all different. I mean, Master P had an investor, and his music was not, necessarily award winning when he first started putting it out. But he did really, really well because his hustle and his motivation drove him to success.
Absolutely. But even going back to your examples there, I think even the sports world, if they have a wife, if they have their kids, they're going to put money into that. They have
Yes.
their kids' friends, for example. One tier down, you've got professional people at the top of their game, lawyers, accountants. They have relatives, they have friends, and they're like, it's not always a professional investor. It's someone with a bit of capital, is what I'm hearing you say. It's
Yes.
willing to believe in a project, but see the business return in it.
Yeah.
Just, I call it sponsoring rather than investing. Maybe that's
That's probably a better, but with the sponsor, it's a sponsor that needs a return on investment.
need a return.
It's not somebody it's not a charity.
Not a charity. 100, but I think, it's long term. I understand it will take time to get this back.
Yes.
And when how does an investor, let me get the words right. How does an investor find the time when they start expecting their return? So when a small bit of change comes through, is it every bit of money, 20, 30% goes back? Or is it when you get large amounts of money, then you have to pay back?
It's whatever you agree. And every client that I've had has had a different deal and a different story. Everybody has a different story about how they met their investor. Everybody has a different story about how much money they were, they received. Some have a 50-50 split with the investor. Some have to pay back the money plus a percent return on investment, like 10% a year or 25% a year. Some have a split based on one album or two albums. Some have a split in perpetuity. So it's really whatever you negotiate. And if the deal isn't right, you shouldn't sell your soul to get money, because the money is it's out there. It's just too easy to get. And I don't want to make it seem like you can sit back and do nothing and the money just comes to you. That's not it. It's a lot of work. You might have to reach out to 100 people to get 5 meetings. And out of those 5 meetings, maybe one person will do it.
Yeah.
And maybe the ratio is 200 people. Maybe it's 500 people. It's going to be different for every person because every opportunity is different and everybody's reach is different.
Fully agreed. I think some of the things I teach in my own coaching program with artists is just how to make a simple $1,000 a month, £1,000. And if you imagine it's 4 weeks a month, you got 1 gig per week. if you got one sponsored post per week at a rate of 150 to 250, if you have consistency and you book yourself out 6 weeks ahead, and you're negotiating your brand deals, you can pretty easily lock in 1,000 a month.
Easily.
And it's just the start. And I love what you said, that phrase. Money is a stepping stone to your dream career.
It is.
Paraphrasing, but literally, if you can figure out how to get the bag, it unlocks what you're searching for.
Yes. And I'm gonna preface this by telling you that I come from a poor background. I was not born wealthy by any means. So I'm prefacing that because what I'm about to say is a little incendiary. Money is like water. It flows. It's liquid.
Always.
It's not it's everywhere. It's not I'm trying to find the word that I want. It's abundant. Money is abundant.
Yep.
And when you come from a place where you're lacking, sometimes you don't realize how abundant it is. So you have this mindset like, I need money. Let me get as much as I can. Let me just grab it, and hoard it. Hold on to it. When you have that kind of mindset, you're always going to lose.
Absolutely.
Because money is a tool. It's like a seed that has to grow. So when you get money in, if you just hoard it and hold on to it, it devalues because inflation is always rising, especially right the fuck now, right?
And a scarcity mindset as well. Yeah.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for, scarcity. That's exactly the word. When you have a scarcity mindset, you deep down think you can't do it. Your subconscious mind thinks you can't do it because it's scarce. And anything that's scarce means your experience is you can't get it. So when you tell yourself all the time, even if you don't know you're saying it to yourself, I can't get that, I can't get that, guess what happens? You can't get that.
Because the words you say to yourself is what your subconscious believes. 1,000%. 1,000%.
Your subconscious does not know the difference between reality and what you tell it. So if you tell your subconscious all the time that you're successful and that money comes to you, and you really believe it, you can't just say it and think I'm always going to be poor. Money always comes to me. I'm always going to be poor. Money always comes to me. It's not going to happen, and there is some learning that you have to do. You have to understand what to do with it when you get it, or it'll come and you'll end up investing it in dumb shit, or you'll just have a lot of debt instead of, assets that grow. Yeah. So there is something that you have to do in order to prepare to have the money. But you have to, first of all, get rid of that mindset that you cannot ever have money, because anybody can have it.
Honestly, fully aligned. Because I think every artist who's feeling the pinch financially, once you work your socks off and I've earned, I've got our mortgage money ready, bought our first apartment, and you clean yourself out, and it took you, let's say it took 5 years to build the pot up, you gain that back in a fraction of the time. Because once you've lost it all, it's like the moment in Batman where he cuts the rope and you have no other alternative but to claw your way back out. And if it's like that in life as an artist, and you're hungry enough saying, I want to get out of this shit job that I hate, I want to get out of this place that I live, I want to get out of this place where I was born into, that's not going to be my life. I personally find that when you truly believe I'm going to change my destiny, you're going to outwork everyone, you will find a way to make the money to make the dream come true.
You just described me. Yeah. You just described me. When I was at university, I have an undergraduate degree and 2 master's degrees. Wow. And I had a partial scholarship for my undergraduate degree, but my parents couldn't afford to send me to college. I figured out a way to do it. I had 3 jobs and I just did what I had to do. And I don't look back on it now and say, oh my God, I was so tired all the time. That sucked. I don't look at it like that at all. I look at it like that got me into position so that I could go get an MBA. And I was a little bit smarter by the time I got an MBA because I was working, and it was easier to get the money for the MBA because I had already gone through it for 4 years for my undergrad. So then once I had that, it put me on a higher playing field to get a better job. And then once I got a great job, I realized, okay, I can do this for myself. I want to be an entrepreneur. It's stepping stones. Yep. I didn't sit back and say, okay, I want to be Bill Gates
No.
and I'll be there in 20 minutes. I'll be, that wealthy in 20 minutes. First of all, that was never my goal. So I'm being funny. I don't care about being a billionaire. I'm not driven by money. But if I were, I wouldn't set my goal. Maybe my end goal would be that high, but I'd have a little bit smaller goal where I could actually attain it. I want to become a millionaire first. And then once I became a millionaire, my goal would become a multimillionaire. And then once I was a multimillionaire, I wanted to make at least 100 million. And then once I got to 100 million, now I want to be a billionaire. Like there's levels to this. It's like levels in a game, if you will.
Do you think independent artists, they throw a dart in the dark and they say, I want to get to 100,000 streams when they've never even gotten to 20? They want to get to 1 million streams before they ever got
I
to
don't think they even
100,000.
I don't even think they throw a dart because that would be work. I think most people don't want to do the work. They just look at the fame and the glitz and they say, I want that. And they don't know how they're going to get it.
Yes.
They don't do the research to figure out even what that means. Like there's a lot that comes along with fame and success. You give up a lot. You give up a lot of personal freedom. And if you don't really take the time and effort to learn what your goal, like what that means, in all aspects, you're kind of setting yourself up to fail because you might get there and be like, oh, I don't like this. How many times have you gone someplace or to an event or to a party and you got there and you were excited and you got there and you're like, I don't like this. This isn't fun. I'm leaving.
Yep.
That happens in life too.
Even when I always say, be careful what you wish for, like an artist will say, I want loads of comments and I want loads and loads of engagement. And then when they get that, they go, oh, there's too many. I can't respond to them all.
Yes. Well, the fuck, there's too many people hating on me. You did you wish for? You wanted hundreds of responses. You can't control if 50 of them are going to be telling you they hate your music.
Yes.
You've got to develop a thick skin. It's better to get some reaction than no reaction.
One of the craziest ways the music industry is empowering artists and fans like never before is with a brand new platform called even.biz. They are selling the music to the fans before it hits streaming. And so 2 to 3 weeks before you go to Spotify, Apple Music, and all the others, you create an Even campaign with multiple bonuses, multiple exclusive offers that they cannot buy anywhere else but on Even. I'm delighted to be coaching artists with their Even releases if they reach out to me and need a helping hand. And so if you want to sign up and skip the waitlist for the platform, plus get bonus access to the mailing list function and the SMS texting function under Fan Connect Beta, sign up now. You can use my partner link, which is backstage.even.biz/partners/Ayaz. I can't wait to work with you and help you build your fan drop for the very first time. So I guess what lessons have you learned in your career that looking back on it, you were surprised and it was maybe a deal you were reluctant to take, or it was like an opportunity that you didn't quite see the vision, but the artist did? Yeah. Were there any particular talents that you was like, didn't think it would be the one, but it was?
Yes. I don't remember who the artist was. I wish I could. But early in my career, I knew that advances were debt. So it might have been Twista. I knew that advances were debt. So I wanted to keep the advances low, but have the back end split be bigger because I thought that was what was better for the artist. I didn't, and it definitely is better for the artist, but I didn't take into consideration that if a label doesn't have a lot of skin in the game, they don't go as hard. And I'm going to give you an analogy if you'll just, bear with me for 30 seconds or so. It would be like if you lent me $20, right? And I didn't pay you back, you'd probably be pissed off, but I'll bet it wouldn't change your life. Mm-hmm. I'll bet you wouldn't miss a car payment or miss a meal, or you couldn't pay your rent because I didn't give you back the $20 that you gave me. If you gave me $5 million, I'll bet you'd miss that. I'll bet that's life-changing. So I'm being funny here to make a point. If a label's giving you a really large advance, they're going to figure out a way to help you make money so that they can get their money back. And with you as like a person, you probably don't have 5 million that you'd lend me. And if you did, don't lend it to me. It's not a good investment. But let's say it was 5,000, right? 5,000 would probably impact you. If you lend it to me and I didn't pay it back, you'd probably feel that. But if you had the opportunity to help me with my social media and turn me into a client so that I could make $20,000 and pay you back your 5, I'll bet you would do that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So I'm here reading between the lines, just saying the smart balance between upfront and on the back end. That's what I'm hearing you say.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Because I thought, okay, we don't want to be in debt. We don't want a huge advance. Let's keep it as low as possible. But then when they don't have anything to lose and you don't really start to hit right away, you might get 4 weeks instead of 12 to start, to start reacting. So that was a really hard lesson for me to learn.
And how did the dice end up rolling in the end of that deal? Do you remember?
I think it was Twista who became a star.
But did he take a big enough sizable chunk in advance in the end?
No, this is how I learned. We got no advance. Our advance was $150,000 to hire a street team. And it was a 50-50 split on the back end because his team didn't need money. They were already, it was 3 guys that invested, so they didn't need money. And I wanted to keep the advance low. But as we went forward, I'm like, oh my God, I could have really like hurt them by doing this deal, because if Twisted didn't blow up immediately, you may not know who he is today. And a lot of people don't, because he's back in the 90s. I'm making the 90s.
God-given talent, obviously, like him, is insane, right? So obviously,
I know a lot of talented artists that you've never heard of.
True.
Okay, my favorite rapper is Razkaz. And I'll bet most of the people listening to this don't know who Razkaz is.
No, you eluded me there.
He's one of the most amazing rappers ever. Way better than Kendrick Lamar, way better than J. Cole, in my opinion. Of course, it's subjective. Way better than Kanye. It's subjective, again, subjective. But all that to say, there was no leverage when he got his deal. He was signed to Priority at the time of Ice Cube and Master P and Too Short. Like not Too Short, he was on Jive, but during that era when all those guys were hitting, and they just kept like putting him to the side because he didn't have leverage.
I think exactly that, going back to your earlier point, like sometimes the A&R who signed you gets booted off. And then you're on a label that you don't morally, ethically align to. You're not a priority to them. And no one wins.
Correct.
And so I think it's betting on yourself, really.
Isn't enough. Like, talent just is not enough. There's a lot of untalented artists that are super, super, super successful. If it were all about talent, everybody at the top would be super talented. And they're not.
Yeah.
They're just not. There's a lot of lucky artists out here.
Lucky, and sometimes shit sells. Yep. And what's actually subjectively good art is not what's at the top of the charts, not what's top of streaming. It's the people who played the game, learned how to win, and then, had a lot of luck along the way.
Yes. I also think the key word in what you just said is sells. You said there's shit that sells. It's a business, so they care about what sells. If negativity is selling, they're going to sell negativity. If positivity is selling, they're going to sell positivity.
So it's not always about making what you think is, what's the word? Not what you think is going to be the best song imaginable. It's learning what the actual industry is hoping for at this point in time and feeding it like a factory.
I think kind of. I don't want to say yes to that, because it's not just about the label. It's really about the fans.
The fans, yes.
Do the fans want to hear it? I use Adele as an example of this all the time. She's so incredibly talented. But she put out an album. Her first album was how she was so wronged by this guy. Poor him, by the way. So wronged in this relationship. And it resonated with the world. And she went from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. She was a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, or a Tesla. She went whoosh. She bypassed everybody because she was talking about subjects that people could relate to, and she did it in a really amazing way. So it wasn't the label telling her to make that album. She made that album because it was in her. It just happened to resonate with fans. And that's what you need to do. You need to resonate with the listeners. And you need it, especially today, in today's market, you've got to connect with them. And you use social media to connect with them. It's what you do for a living. Thank God for you, because social media is how we start all of our clients. We need that connection and that real engagement. And then once they connect with the artist, they'll check out the music. And if the music is good, they'll share it with their friends, and they'll love you forever.
Absolutely. I think it's what rap does to capture the streets, Adele does to capture the people.
Correct.
I think, yeah, like you said, it's just like going through these human connections, exactly, that every woman on the planet, or any gender, should I say, has experienced in some way, shape, or form, but it was told through story.
Yes. And everybody's different. Like what meets your emotion is going to possibly be different than what meets my emotion. You know, like you're going to love artists that I think are horrendous. I'm going to love artists where you're going to be like, ugh. It's human nature. It's our experience that we bring to life. But regardless, the artists that I love are touching my soul. The artists that you love are touching your soul. And that's what you have to do as an artist. Not change your music to touch souls, but find the souls that you touch. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. That's the actual perfect place I want to wrap, actually, right there.
Okay, good.
I would love to talk to you all night. Honestly, I could listen to your stories for hours, but no.
And I have a million questions I could ask you too.
Let's chat. Where can people connect with you, the Rap Coalition, the Cheat Codes podcast? I hope you're coming back for another bit.
I would love that. Whatever I can do. I always want to share knowledge. Like that's what drives me. You know, the money doesn't drive me. What drives me is helping artists. And I feel like if artists know how this works, then they can figure it out, like how to get there. If you know what the real is, because you can't see it from the outside looking in, you just think, oh, I want to be famous. And it's not that at all. You've got to really touch people and gain fans, basically.
Absolutely.
But Instagram is probably the best way to reach me. I'm at Rap Coalition. I'm at Rap Coalition on TikTok. My email address is askwendyday@gmail.com. My website is helpfulangel.com. Those are probably the best ways to reach me. If you go to wendyday.com, it links to all of my podcasts. I've got 2 of them. I've got No Standing Zone, and I've got The Cheat Code with 2 friends. The Cheat Code is just us sitting around talking shit about the music industry. And then No Standing Zone is like this. It's me interviewing people about.
I'm going to be honest with you. Since you launched No Standing Zone, I've been manifesting myself as a guest one day. So
okay.
I would
love that.
I would love that.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love that. That'd be awesome.
You're an absolute superstar. Thank you so much, Wendy.
Thank you for having me. This was great. Thank you for doing this, by the way, because I know there's no money in what you're doing right here. There's no money in this. You're doing it because you love.
I love it. I want people to win. That's it.
And thank you. Me too. And I love that. So I'm very attracted to like-minded people. So thank you for doing this. I know.
God bless you,
I know what it means.
God bless. You made it to the end of this episode. Mad love and a huge amount of appreciation from me and Wendy Day for an insightful conversation. I hope you've learned a thing or two about how to structure your next deal, about how leverage is the number one thing you need to create as an artist. It's not about the terms of the deal. It's about the value that you put on yourself when approaching the negotiation. And so what I want you to do next is to watch this entire playlist of interviews from the rest of season 1, season 2, and season 3 of the All About Helping Musicians. You're going to pick up more game than you've ever learned in your life.